Hey guys, with the summer now squarely in the rearview mirror and the frigid temperatures of winter fast approaching, I thought the timing was probably pretty good to take a quick side trail off the usual topics and look at a portable heating solution. This is the WIPPRO 8kW diesel heater. And because the WIPPRO guys were nice enough to send me 2 extra diesel heaters, we're actually going to do a kind of a re-ray 100K giveaway to celebrate reaching that 100K subscriber milestone. And we're going to be giving away 2 of the extra WIPPRO diesel heaters, 100% free to 2 lucky winners. Now, I did ask them if we can include shipping addresses outside the US, and they told me that due to the constraints of their current distribution network, they're able to include US and Canadian addresses only. So my apologies to those of you in other countries. I'm trying, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So if you're in US or Canada, stay tuned until the end of the video, and I'll tell you how you can get entered for a chance to win one of these guys. Okay, with that little bit of fun out of the way, you might have noticed that I said this is an 8kW diesel heater. And in this case, that 8kW spec is actually not referring to how much power this thing requires, but rather the rate at which it's able to convert energy from diesel fuel to heat. And at 8kW, this pretty small heater should be adequate for fairly large spaces, including this new 288 square foot workspace that I recently completed in my metal horse barn. And at least according to the specs, this unit does seem to be pretty fuel efficient, consuming somewhere from as little as about 6 ounces of diesel fuel per hour up to a max of about 18 ounces of fuel per hour, depending on the heat setting that you use. But in addition to the diesel fuel, it does also require a small bit of power to run. And that can come in the form of a 12 volt or maybe a 24 volt DC power source. That could simply be a 12 volt battery or maybe a 12 volt output on a power station. Alternatively, you can power it with an AC adapter that is actually included for wall power. So over the past few years, a fairly common question that I've seen in the comment section for various power station videos has been, can I run a diesel heater with that? And up until now, I could really only say yes, but I really couldn't say how long since I haven't actually tested that. So today we're going to find out together how much power this thing really consumes and how long it'll run continuously on that 8-liter capacity fuel tank. So in any case, I'm expecting to see a huge advantage in terms of power consumption versus electric heaters. But another big advantage with these diesel heaters is that they produce a nice dry heat, unlike propane heaters, which create a lot of moisture in the air that they put out. And if you've ever gone camping in the cold weather months in an SUV or a van or other small enclosed space, you know controlling moisture can be one of the biggest challenges you face. And that alone makes heating with propane practically a non-starter in those small airtight spaces. Okay, let's jump back in time before I had this massive head cold, and let's see how to set one of these guys up, and then we'll find out all of the things that you might want to know about these diesel heaters before you decide whether or not it's a good solution for your particular needs. All right, here are the pieces and parts that come with this WIPPRO diesel heater. So there's a little bit of duct work that is expandable, and that goes on the output port over here on this side. And there are a couple of large radiator clamps that you can use to secure that. There's also an exhaust pipe that is flexible here, and that will connect to this exhaust output here. Now, there's also a muffler, as you can see right there. What's interesting is the manual here, which has 3 sets of instructions, one for each color type, which I found interesting, but it shows that the muffler is connected right here to this exhaust output port. That is in fact not actually how this is supposed to work. And so the instructions in the manual are very rudimentary. They don't really get into the detail, and I think in general they're fairly unhelpful, to be quite honest. Even though this is a nice little manual, just doesn't really help you. Now, WIPPRO does have a nice little video that I was able to track down, and it actually is very helpful. So basically what ends up happening is that the muffler doesn't connect directly to the output port. It connects to the exhaust hose on the far end away from the diesel heater. And then this pipe here connects to the output. Now there's also this little cap filter, and I thought maybe this goes on the end of the muffler or maybe on the somewhere in there, but it actually goes underneath. So on the bottom, there's another port, if you can make that out. So there's one for the exhaust, which has a little 90-degree elbow on there. And then this actually goes on the bottom there. I believe that's probably an intake. And note that there are also mounting brackets on the bottom here. So you could securely mount this on an RV camper inside or outside, depending on how you're going to deploy it. Now, it does come with a little rotatable louver and a bracket that fits on here. And it comes with an AC connector here. This is basically the same sort of AC adapter you would use for a DC fridge. So this thing doesn't use a lot of power. You can also direct power it from a 12-volt source, and there are a couple of little contacts right here, positive and negative, for direct connection to either a 12 or 24-volt battery. Now, interestingly, it does come with a little remote control. And then you can turn this thing on or off and plus or minus to raise the temperature setting from the remote control. I do not believe it has a Bluetooth app. So I think that's a constraint that you have with a lower price unit like this. You don't get the Bluetooth option. And that, for many people, that's actually a plus rather than a negative because they don't want to use a mobile app. But it does have a display on the top that allows you to control it from there as well. Now back to this little air output. So this would connect to the other end of this little piece of ductwork here. And that the bracket they give you for that is this little black bracket here. Now I've kind of rigged up a piece of PVC board that I had left over, and I drilled a hole and I connected the bracket here. So this duct will actually fit on the other side of this, and again use the radiator clamp to cinch that down. Now I used little pan-headed screws in here, and the problem with that is they stick up just enough that I can't snap this little louvered directional vent cap on there. So I'm going to have to change these to flat-headed screws in order to be able to use that. But then this will fit in my window. And what I'm going to do is position the WIPPRO diesel heater outside so I don't have to worry about exhaust at all. And then I will just put the little vent here on the other side, so all I get on the inside is the outbound heated air, which is really all I want to do. So let me go ahead and get this thing assembled, and we'll see what it looks like fully assembled. All right, that took all of about 2 or 3 minutes. So yeah, very simple to set that up. So now it's really a matter of me getting this outside where I want to put it and adding some diesel fuel. And then we're going to find out how efficient these things really are. How much heat do they generate? How much runtime can you get in various heat settings based on its apparent 8-liter capacity? So let's run this thing through the paces and find out how all that actually works in real life. All right, now hopefully these little flathead screws will allow me to attach this guy here. Yeah, there we go. So now I can spin that around, kind of whatever direction. All right, time to get the diesel heater outside and connect the ductwork. For this temporary setup, I'm just going to set it on the little accessory shelf there on this ladder. Of course, I need to put the radiator clamp on there before I connect it. All right, that seems secure. Now I just got to add some fuel and a power source. All right, now as I mentioned before, we have a couple different power options really. So we can power this direct DC through these positive and negative terminals here with either a 12 volt or a 24 volt battery source. Now this could be from a auxiliary car socket, and it does not come with one of those auxiliary car plugs as far as the cable goes, but you can easily buy one. In fact, I'll show you one in just a second that I bought for 10 bucks on Amazon. And then you can also obviously plug it in to AC using the included AC adapter. Now you can also just direct wire it with the cable that they sent with it to a 12 volt battery. So let's take a look at that. As I mentioned before, it does come with a variety of hardware here, mounting hardware. So there's different types of mounting bolts in here. So there's self-threading or self-tapping screws. There's mounting bolts. There's also additional sort of tie downs. These guys here, there's a couple of these, and these are for the exhaust pipe. So this is kind of, they're trying to give you pretty much most of the hardware that you might need to permanently install this in, say, a van or a camper. Then it does come with this little cable here that's got a couple of small eyelets, terminals on it. Now these are only suitable really for, I think, connecting to the terminals on the heater itself. Now the other side is cable stripped here with a little cap on it. You can pull those off and then you can terminate those however you want. So I'd have to put larger ring terminals on there to connect it to a 12 volt battery like this. So that's definitely an option. And then, as I mentioned, you can use the included AC adapter. And another option that would be nice if it came with this, but it doesn't. Like I said, this was about 10 bucks. It's got a 10-foot cable on it. It's designed to plug into, you know, your standard auxiliary 12 volt 10 amp adapter socket here. And the reason I bought this adapter cable is to show you that it's easy enough to adapt one of these, or at least we're going to find out to make sure it works, to adapt one of these diesel heaters to run off of a portable power station. So let me grab a portable power station and we're going to connect this up and make sure that works. This should be pretty straightforward. I just need to connect positive to positive, negative to negative. And as with any electrical connection, you want to make sure that the ring terminal is not sort of on there at an angle. It needs to be flush. So you want this to be nice and snug and not kinked on there in any way. I'm putting the washer between the thumb screw and the ring terminal just to ensure that it helps give me plenty of contact. So that's all set up. Now all I got to do is add some fuel and apply power. All right, so I'm going to try to fill this thing all the way up. I'd probably be better off using a funnel. So let's see if this will take the full 2 gallons. It should. I think we got it. Yeah, there's just maybe an ounce or 2 left in there. Almost nothing. Okay, so let's put the cap on. All right, let's go ahead and plug this guy in. All right, got the DC port turned on. All right, you see we've powered the unit on, and it comes up with the clock setting showing us that we haven't set the clock. Now you can actually set the time if you want, but I will point out that it doesn't seem to hold the time. So if you remove power and then connect power again later on, the time goes back to 0. And the only time you really need to set the timer is if you want to use the timer function so that it comes on at a specific time and goes off at a specific time. But you can see the clock is actually just incrementing minutes now. So this is showing me how long I've had the unit turned on. Not a big deal. And if I try to increase up or down, I get the power modes. If I want to change that to temperature instead, I can press and hold up and down, and then it'll switch to temperature as well. And then I can switch through temperature. Now, if you'd prefer to use Fahrenheit, you can press and hold the up button for about 5 or 6 seconds. And now we're in Fahrenheit. So let's just see what our range is. So it looks like it goes all the way down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we saw that it was up around 87 or something like that. Let me just set it to like 75, and then I'll lock that in and say OK. Now there is a priming function on here, and I haven't done that. And I'm going to see if this will start just on its own and start producing heat without priming. So this is brand new. I haven't run it before. I imagine it's going to take a little while for this to heat up, especially since it's bone dry and the pump hasn't really been run before. So if we don't start producing heat soon, then I would assume that we have to go through the priming function, but we may not have to. I don't know if you can hear this. Just a little clicking sound. I think it's priming itself. That's usually the fuel pump. All right, just to give you a sense of how much volume we're putting out here. So it seems to cap out at about 60 decibels. You can see on the display there, it looks like we're outputting air at about 192 degrees. So let's go inside and see what we're getting. But we are currently pulling 39 watts through that little DC connector. I think during startup it pulls around 120 watts. So definitely possible to power this thing through your little auxiliary socket. All right, this thing is definitely putting out some heat. It's already, I can tell this room is going to actually get pretty warm. It's already 63 degrees in here. So let's just see what we're reading. Getting 150 degrees on the inside. Now this should go without saying, but anytime you're using heat or using anything that's using a combustion process to produce heat, you do want to have a carbon monoxide detector. And I've got this little portable one here that's actually rechargeable. This has got a, I don't know if you can make that out, it's got a nice little display on it. It shows you the parts per million. It also shows me the temperature, which right now, holding this near this, is showing 81 degrees, and also shows me relative humidity. So pretty cool little portable carbon monoxide detector. Great for taking this thing, you know, in an RV or a van or even a car or a tent. So got a little carabiner clip on it. I just like this little guy. All right, I kind of wanted to get a reality check on whether or not this carbon monoxide, this little portable carbon monoxide detector actually works. So I'm kind of put it in the exhaust stream here, and I've got my little home, little more expensive one that you plug into your kitchen for carbon monoxide detection, and get them both into the stream and just see if they detect. This can take a little while because there's a little bit of a nice kind of fresh air wafting through here, and carbon monoxide is a pretty lightweight molecule, so it disperses rather easily. And you can see the little one is picking it up. I'm not getting any indication out of the more expensive National brand. We are reading 16 parts per million on the Hill. So yeah, it's definitely working. But as you can see outside with the fresh air supply, it's kind of hard to get enough concentration for these to even pick these up. But this is definitely working. All right, real quick, let's just check and see if this remote control is already paired or if I have to pair it. So I should be able to just hit the minus button. Yeah, and I can control the temp from there. I might put that to 72. And just let that run like that. I assume that'll lock in if I don't press any other buttons. Yeah, okay, cool. So remote control definitely works. Let's just check the, you can already see some discoloration on this exhaust pipe telling me that this is probably quite hot. So let me do a test on this. And you can see that's 240 degrees. So that is very hot. The muffler, 284 degrees. This is spot check the unit itself. Nice and cool, 62 degrees. Down near the exhaust, we get pretty warm, 130, 140 degrees. As we go up, much cooler. Over here on the other side, nice and cool. This is the side with the fuel tank, obviously. Quick update, we are at 73 degrees. So in about 1 hour, we have managed to climb 10 degrees Fahrenheit in this 288 square foot workspace. So, not bad. All right, it has been about 3.5 hours. And we're all the way up to almost 78 degrees in here. So getting kind of toasty. I also want to point out, and I'm going to do some calculations on this to get a sense. Now this is a 900 watt hour power station, and I think we started out, I have to go back and check the video, but we were either at 63% state of charge, and we were in the 30 or 40 watt range for a little while there right after we started up, and now we're in a very low power draw state here, 8 or 9 watts off the DC port. So I'm going to let this run for a full 24 hours, and we're going to see how much charge we used on a 900 watt hour power station, and just get a sense, do a rough calculation of how many watt hours we actually consumed. But at least at this point, this thing looks to be consuming very little power.
The next day.
All right, we are looking at almost 24 hours here. I came into the shop this morning. It is 84 degrees in here. So if we go look out here, gonna zoom in there for you. But from here, it looks like we are just below the halfway mark. So about 4 liters we've used in 24 hours. So that tells me we could probably get very close to 48 hours of runtime, especially if I reduce the temperature on this. I imagine we'll be burning fuel a little bit slower. But yeah, this thing is definitely still cranking out the heat. I've actually had to open up a door here to try to cool it down in here because it's, like I said, a balmy 84 degrees. Holy cow. All right, now I've just used the remote control to turn it off, and it's going through a shutdown cycle right now. Go outside and take a look at that. Nice cold, rainy day. So during this cleaning cycle, we're pulling 100 watts. So it's similar to the ignition cycle. And we're at 22%. So let me go do the math on that. All right, took right around 3 minutes or so for the power down cleanup sequence to run. And now it's just showing me the interior temperature, kind of in standby mode. And this is where it basically will sit until you actually physically remove power. And as you can see, we're currently not even drawing enough watts to register on the power station. And we're back to the present, where I'm still trying to get over this massive head cold. So I do have to say that this is a pretty handy little heater, and obviously more than capable of providing enough heat for this little 288 square foot workspace. And I'd say that it could also easily accommodate larger spaces, like 500 to 600 square feet in size. I'm thinking something like a 2-car garage kind of space. I do also like the fact that it can run continuously for basically 2 full days on just a couple gallons of fuel. And over that time, it consumes, coincidentally, 288 watt hours of battery capacity, which would get you only about 15 minutes of runtime using a typical electric space heater. And if you do the math on the cost of a comparable amount of heat from an all-electric heat source, it's not even close at all. An electric heat solution, which is virtually impossible to run on a portable power or a solar-based power source, would cost you somewhere around 20 to 30 bucks a day if you ran it continuously. While this kind of solution is going to cost you basically a gallon of diesel per day, which is what, about $3.50 maybe? So on the economics alone, this kind of solution is pretty much a no-brainer if you want to heat a camper or a shed or a garage or workshop, that kind of space. And under the conditions I'm currently working with outside, with temps in the, say, mid-40s Fahrenheit, in a pretty well-insulated 288 square foot workspace, you definitely don't need to run this thing for more than a few hours a day to maintain a comfortable temperature in here. And so, in these types of conditions, you could realistically stretch that runtime out to something like 6 or 7, maybe even 8 days on a single tank of fuel, which is extremely impressive. I also really like the fact that on power up, it only takes about 3 minutes to begin producing nice dry heat. And that dry heat really does help keep moisture from being a concern. Unlike propane heaters, which actually create significant moisture problems that can be a real pain to manage if you're in a small space like a camper or a van. Now, I'm also impressed at how quiet the fuel pump is on this particular unit, since I have seen other units that the fuel pumps make a much louder clicking sound. It's pretty intrusive, and I think to the point where that would probably bother me in an overnight situation if I'm trying to sleep. But on this WIPPRO unit, it's barely audible over the white noise of the fan. And so at least for me, it's not something that I would find annoying when trying to sleep. Now, all that said, you do definitely need to take into consideration how you would deploy a solution like this. So you can definitely keep it on the inside of your living space as long as you properly vent the exhaust to the outside to prevent those dangerous carbon monoxide buildups. But you can also run this unit outside in the cold and vent the hot air inside, just like I did in the video here. And the vent hose on this thing seems to be pretty much a standard 3-inch sort of vent diameter. So you could easily upgrade to a longer, maybe insulated vent hose if you needed to give you a lot of flexibility in how you could deploy something like this. And like I said before, regardless of what kind of heating solution you're using, if it's combustible, you definitely want to have extra peace of mind by having a little carbon monoxide detector handy, like this little guy here that I got from Amazon. And speaking of Amazon, this WIPPRO diesel heater is available on Amazon right now for 189 bucks. And keep in mind that pricing can and often does change from time to time, so depending on when you're watching this video, that price could be higher or lower. But if I were going to rate this heater on a scale of 1 to 5, I think I would give it a 4.5. It'd probably be a solid 5, except for the fact that the instructions that come with the unit are frankly fairly useless. But thankfully, there's always YouTube to the rescue with plenty of videos, maybe including this one, that should pretty much show you everything you need to know about how to easily set one of these things up and how to navigate that little onboard LCD menu to get it to behave pretty much exactly the way you want it to. And oh hey, if this green color doesn't happen to float your boat, well, it's also available in red and white in addition to green. And yeah, I know there's not a red one here. I think they sent me 2 white ones by mistake, but per usual, I will leave the Amazon links to all 3 of the colors that are available down in the video description below if you want to go check one out. Okay, so let's talk about how you can enter for a chance to win one of these heaters. And as I said in the intro, this is a 100% free giveaway for eligible US and Canadian-based shipping addresses. Okay, so this is going to be super simple. All you have to do first is make sure you're subscribed to the channel and then leave a comment on this video that includes the word WIPPRO with 2 P's. I do check for spelling. And then in about 2 weeks, let's say Wednesday, November 22nd, I'll use a little software utility to randomly select 2 winners from the comments on this video based on that particular keyword. And then I'll announce the 2 winners with a quick community post, and I'll also reply directly to those selected comments, letting you personally know that your comment was one of the 2 selected winning comments. And I highly recommend that you turn on YouTube notifications so that you do get notified if I reply directly to your comment, because you do only have 1 week to claim the prize before then I have to redraw another winner. Now, a quick word, I hate to even have to cover this, but a quick word about scammers. It seems like this is a little bit less of an issue lately than it has been the past couple of years, but if you get a reply on your comment telling you that you've won, and that reply looks something like this over here, notice that it does not have a background highlight around the name like this one does over here. The one with the background is actually for me legitimately, and the other one is someone trying to scam you. And remember, this giveaway is 100% free. So if someone tells you that you've won and then they want you to send them money for shipping or handling or whatever, do not fall for that. So make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment below using the keyword WIPPRO, and then watch for your notifications on November 22nd to see if you were one of the 2 lucky winners. Okay, I think that's finally a wrap. Hopefully there was something in the video that you found helpful. If you did, I'd very much appreciate it if you'd consider clicking on that like button down below. And maybe, hey, while you're down there, maybe click that subscribe button as well if you're not already a subscriber. So I do thank you for watching this video with me, and I do hope you'll come back and join me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there. Oh, and thanks to all of you for helping me get to 100,000 subscribers. That is just awesome. Thank you very much.